Earn great returns on your money with the safety and security of a community bank. Bank of Clark is offering 4.85% annual percentage yield on 6-month CDs, 5% APY on 12-month CDs and IRAs, and 4.95% APY on 9-month CDs. Visit your local Bank of Clark branch today or go to bankofclark.bank. We're the bank for that. Member FDIC. Limited time offer. Rate subject to change at any time. Minimum balance of $1,000 on CDs.
It's time to get your checking account to zero with free checking from PenFed. That's zero ATM fees, zero balance requirements, and zero time spent waiting for your paycheck to direct deposit because you can receive it up to 2 days early. Open your account with just $25 and see how big zero can be. Apply online today at penfed.org/free checking. Early direct deposit eligibility may vary between pay periods and timing of payer's funding. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed, insured by NCUA.
PenFed's got great rates for everyone.
Hi, guys, and welcome to the Grace Under Pressure podcast. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest, Miss Shama Ko. She is the Director of Operations at Girls and Gis. It's a wonderful female-specific jiu-jitsu camp program that has a lot of great opportunities. And so why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Shama. I started out in jiu-jitsu in 2003. It consumed my life very quickly, and I've trained and traveled all over the world. I competed for about 7 to 8 years straight consistently as a full-time competitor. And then when an injury took me out, that's when my life kind of transitioned, and doors opened for me to get more involved in forming the Girls and Gis organization. And so that's been my life for the past 12 years now.
Well, time flies when you're having fun.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I know that you're probably the furthest jiu-jitsu competitor, jiu-jitsu practitioner we've had on the show. Aren't you based in Hawaii?
Yes. Yeah. I'm born and raised, and I was in Texas for about 20 years. That's where I got involved with doing Girls and Gis and the home base of Girls and Gis. And then I moved back home shortly after the pandemic, and it was the best decision I made. I'm glad I came home.
Yeah. What's the jiu-jitsu culture like in Hawaii?
It is huge. Most people don't know, are not aware of it, but I would say there's probably most jiu-jitsu academies and practitioners per capita here in the state than anywhere else.
Wow.
It has a lot of old roots here, started probably in like the 80s, I think, is when it first got introduced. And Hawaii has a long-standing relationship with martial arts anyways. We have a large Japanese and Chinese and Vietnamese population, to where there's kind of a customary, already within the culture to do martial arts. So it's second nature that you would just train. And we have a huge surf culture, obviously. It's where it came from. And so that and jiu-jitsu, as you guys know, with the shaka goes hand in hand already.
Man, it's a wonderful just melting pot of just all those different cultures that just seem to really feed off of each other.
Yeah. I mean, Hawaii is probably I grew up as what I would consider to be even though I'm mixed, I'm have more of the Caucasian. So I grew up kind of more as a minority here because there's not a lot of what we call haoles. They're more now, but when I was a kid, there wasn't. That's a word that means foreigners, or if you want to trace it further back, it goes back to Hawaiian customs, meaning without breath, which is a custom of theirs, is they share breath, like many Polynesian cultures. And when greeting each other, and foreigners, which were the Captain Cook, did not greet them, so they were without breath, so they were haole.
That's really interesting. Thank you for I didn't know that. So I know that you said that you had been training since 2003. What got you into jujitsu?
So I'd been around jiu-jitsu when I was in high school. And I had some older friends, and they used to love. They were a group of guys, and they would go train jiu-jitsu here in Hawaii, at the only academy in Hawaii, which was Helson's at the time, I believe. And they would come home and hang out afterwards, and they'd be like, "Oh, you got to check out this arm bar." And I am a tomboy still to this day.
Mhm.
And I was always hanging out with the guys and wrestling and acting stupid. And so they'd come home and they'd be like, "Oh, try this arm bar." And they would try to get me to go, and I'd be like, "Nah, I just had no like desire at all." And so for 5 years they tried, and then they finally got one of their girlfriends into it, and she started women's only class, and I was friends with her. And she said, "Shama, just come, please. I need bodies in the class. I just need to look like I have people in the class. Just come." And I was like, "All right, fine." And so from there, it was like, "Oh, why didn't I start doing this sooner?"
Oh, that's great. And I know it's one of those things where sometimes when you have friends who are doing it and then you're just trying to help them out, it ends up you get bit by the bug even more so than just voluntarily walking in sometimes it seems.
Exactly. And I'm not athletic. I mean, I come from a long line of athletes, but I'm very uncoordinated and awkward. And my sister was the jock hitting grand slams in softball, and I was the one scoring teams on my own team in soccer.
Oh no.
Like
Oh
that's
no.
and so like they did not come naturally for me at all. But I'm very stubborn, and so I don't quit.
I love it. I love it. The stubbornness kept you going. So I guess is
Yeah.
that maybe why I guess you stuck with it. You just refused to give up, I guess.
Pretty much. I just didn't leave. And I keep coming back, even when you think I might not be.
And it's funny you're saying that you're not athletic yet. As you said, you were doing the professional jujitsu, competing for a while.
That was, yeah. And I used to joke when I was doing that, and to my friends, and be like, "Can you believe I'm doing this? Like, of all people, that I am the one that's ended up." And they're like, "No." I
So
just, I would just say I love the jujitsu bum lifestyle that being an full-time competitor offered. It was great. I just trained all the time. I lived on the mats, and that was a pretty good life to live.
yeah, I know. You talk about going everywhere and competing. Where all have you gone to compete? Just because that's a dream of mine is being able to just live on the mats and go and compete full time. But I don't have a lifestyle right now that affords that. So where all have you gone?
I went to Brazil. That was really cool. That was my first time out of the country internationally.
Wow.
And then I used to go to for 7 years straight. I was at every PANS, I was at every Worlds. I mostly hit a lot of I got to compete back home in Hawaii. That was interesting. My family got to see what I do because they had no
Mhm.
idea. And just kind of all over the coast, all over the West Coast, East Coast, in between. So it's mostly the States, and then Brazil
Mhm.
was probably my only international.
Okay. But man, that's awesome. It's kind of going to the motherland, so to speak.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was like drinking straight from the fountain is how I
Mhm.
describe like the technique and learning it, and the understanding of where it all came from.
Yeah, man, that's something that's on my bucket list to be able to go and train and just spend some time there. Oh man, that'd be amazing. So, I know we've been in the competition, we've been in the mats, living that mat lifestyle. What actually got you interested in like being on the ground startup with Girls and Geese? Why start this organization?
So Girls and Keys was started by Ashley Nguyen. She's out of Houston, and she was a part of this leadership program, and she really wanted to get more women on the mats, and her husband owned an academy, and so she came up with the name Girls and
Mhm.
Geese, and she set up the first couple of them at her gym, and was just kind of like, "Hey," and this, mind you, this is back in 2009.
Mhm.
There was not that many women
Oh,
training.
no.
And so you'd have to go far to find people just to train with.
Mhm.
And so she just invited everybody to come to her academy, and she's like, hey, I'm gonna have this girls and geese thing. And she just had a box of geese, super grassroots.
Mhm.
And so I came in as a participant because these girls went to a couple of them and they said, this is really awesome. I want to host a girls and geese at my academy. And so
Mhm.
they would just host it at their academy. And so we would we started carpooling together, all the Central Texas girls. We would drive down to Houston, which is like 3.5 hours away, just to
Mhm.
train for a couple hours. And then we'd drive next month, we go to Dallas, and then the following month we go to Corpus. And, so we were driving probably about 7 hours
Yeah.
each way for a lot of these for these girls and geese events. And so we had a lot of time, and it was honestly just a bunch of us girls just traveling, and we'd go have lunch and like it was just a way for us to just become friends. And that what I noticed, and the reason that I got called into it is I was a photographer and I was running my own business, and so I had a little bit of flexibility.
Mhm.
And I noticed on the ride home after these events, it was like, well, that was a great event, but this happened. This was a great event, but that happened. And I said, somebody's got to do something about these butts and get rid of them,
Mhm.
like, and the problem was there was no entity overseeing it. There was no
Mhm.
structure. There was not, it was just like, hey, we're just going to have fun. But
Mhm.
things were happening, like instructors were getting on the mats and
Mhm.
rolling with people that they knew that they had a specific,
Mm.
competitor going against, or there was things that were happening that shouldn't have been happening. Had we had an organization, they wouldn't
Mhm.
have been. And so that's where I came in. I was like, I don't mind volunteering and getting something up and running. Like, let's make this
Mhm.
more official. And so, fast forward, here we are, 20, 2022. And yeah, we've come a long ways from being a very simple grassroots group of women piling into a car and going all over the place. But it's the same. It's
Yeah.
true. It stays true to where we came. I mean, from the very format of how we run the events to um everything is exactly the same. She came up with an amazing formula, and it
Oh,
works. And I
oh,
just kind of
for
put the
sure.
finishing touches on it.
Mhm. Oh, yeah, no, for sure. I've been a part of a couple. I think we had the first one that was in the state of Mississippi. I was a part of not long ago. Loved that one. Went to Baton Rouge, and I've just really enjoyed, getting carpools, getting some friends to go, and I can
Hmm.
relate to the carpooling and getting some lunch afterwards.
Well, it's like a day. You get to make a day with your friends. And how often do we get to do that in our busy day-to-day lives,
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that's one of the greatest things about, I don't know, it seems like the women who are in jujitsu, and I don't want to stereotype, but I have yet to go somewhere, including competitions like Pans and Worlds, and not come out making a friend. That it's just such a
Hmm.
warm community, warm, welcoming community that will armbar you in a second. But wonderful group of people that I've been able to train with this organization. But so how has, I guess, how has it evolved? I know you mentioned in '09 there was basically very few females, and now what are the biggest changes you've seen within your organization as far as the size of the events, the number of people wanting to host? What's been the big changes that you've seen?
it's it's a mistake. I see. I wouldn't say the demand is, I guess the demand has been there.
Mhm.
Our ability to meet the demand has been slow.
Mm.
And but in the meantime of us being able to service as many areas as we can, it's amazing to see so many other women stepping up and taking initiatives. And that's not something that was happening before.
Mhm.
You weren't seeing these other open mats and
Mhm.
other groups that were saying, hey, we need to get together. Let's come together as women and let's train. And that's one of the big ones that I've seen, even just since the pandemic.
Mhm.
I've seen within the past 5 years, I've seen a lot more, which is amazing.
Mhm.
But as far as our need goes, we have when I first came in, my background is also in marketing. And so when I first came in, I was like, let's let everybody know about what we're doing because this
Mhm.
is so awesome. And so we started kind of burning our advertising or just having any kind of advertising or marketing of any sort. That's when we really realized that, wow, there's a lot of women. There's not that many of them, but there's a
Mhm.
lot of them scattered all over.
Mm.
What I've seen since then, though, like I said, and this goes back to women having more open mats, is
Mhm.
I've seen a lot of these women now have brought up a lot of women under them in their academies. So you're
Mm.
seeing a lot more women's teams, women's programs, um, out there. And an analogy that I like to use, and especially coming from Hawaii, it's like I feel like it's just been me and a couple other people out in the lineup in the surf, and we've been going like, no, there's big swells. Women's jujitsu is going to be huge one day.
Mhm.
and, and everybody's like, it's flat. There's nothing going on. Who cares? Whatever, but I feel like the swells are coming in. I feel like the sets are coming in,
Mhm.
and everybody's jumping on board. Everybody from promoters, seeing way more promoters giving women an opportunity to
Mhm.
begin with, and some that are actually paying a little bit better.
Mhm.
There's a lot of room for growth there, but we've come a long, long ways.
I mean, I love that image of I can't relate to the surf culture, but just you feel it kind of in your bones. It's about to come over the horizon. I love that. I love that image. Love it. I know, just even in my own experience, there have been more in the past 6 years. There have been more females and more female specific events, at least just here in our small little state of
Mhm.
Mississippi. And so, if it's hit Mississippi, it's definitely hit everywhere else. So that's
Exactly.
so. So I guess with this wonderful, surge of feeling that big wave or big swell coming, what have been some of the biggest challenges that you've faced with getting this organization going, or just with female jujitsu in general, getting females to buy in?
I've it sold itself, you know. I we have the amount of support and love and resources that people have pulled to help us is phenomenal. It takes a village.
Hmm.
It really does. And I just it's I got sidetracked.
That's all
But it
right.
really does. It really does. It takes a village and it takes all of us. And it's been just absolutely. Go back to the question. I'm going to go sidetracked. I'm already getting sidetracked one more time. Sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good. No, I was just wondering
I
what are
had
some
a
of the.
thought and then I lost it. And I said, I'm not even kidding where she asked me.
No, it's all good. No, I was just wondering what are some of the big struggles maybe you face, waiting on that, wave of female jujitsu to kind of hit and get this thing going. And
Okay.
you, yeah.
So my point was that it's like we have not done this alone.
Hmm.
It's been a group effort on part of the academies, on part of the instructors that have volunteered, on part of our ambassador teams that are out there registering, on part of the donors that are donating, and part of the people who are showing up at these events. And I I've been very fortunate in that in some ways there was no market at all when we started. There was nothing. It didn't exist. It was, I say the hardest thing that I've had is I've honestly had academies ask, what's in it for me?
Mm.
And sometimes people are not on the same page, as far as the importance of why events are necessary. Yes, that has changed over time too, especially if you have a lot of women's team. Why are these events important? It's important for us to go outside of our little bubble. It's important for us to interact with people from other affiliations. It's important for us to learn from each other, because that's how we get better.
Oh, for sure.
It takes all of us. And so I can honestly say that, like, I can't say that there has been a huge challenge in doing this, because the support has just propelled this forward.
That is very fortunate and very wonderful. I know, I would have thought, just getting women in general interested, but you think about it, I know that I crave training with other ladies, just because we roll so different, or, not to brag on the women, but it seems like our techniques are crisper because they kind of have to be. But I would think if a woman is already doing jujitsu, it doesn't take much convincing to get her to be involved in a women's, camp like this.
No, because I mean, I'm shy. Like, I'm generally a shy person, believe it or not. I'm very outgoing. I'm an introvert, extrovert for sure. But like, I really take into account, like, if I were somebody going to an event and I don't know anybody, what would make me feel comfortable, And so we have teams of ambassadors that are there, and that's part of what they're there, is to spot out, do you see anybody kind of off to the side by themselves? Go introduce yourself, introduce them to somebody, get them, and that's really the kind of community we're trying to cultivate. And whether you come with a big huge women's team, it's awesome to get out there and be like, yeah, I brought all my girls with me, and then other teams can be like, I have all my girls with me too, yay, and it's like, be proud of where you're from, 100%. But that doesn't mean that we can't benefit from training together, from being friends, from having that solidarity,
Oh, for sure. It's one of those things that, even still here, in Mississippi, I'm speaking to what I know, which is small town Mississippi. There's only so many girls, per capita that are interested. And if you want to be exposed to more females and be exposed to, just how they roll, you've got to go out and you've got to branch out. And these events are a wonderful way to do it, because it just seems to bring in everybody from Timbuktu to want to experience, jujitsu in that particular area, which is just a really great thing.
Absolutely. And depending, I mean, a lot of people come to jujitsu for a lot of different reasons. And I can almost guarantee that you will probably find somebody at an event that started for the same reason. You can probably find somebody at an event that has overcome the same challenges you have, that have endured the same trauma, that are looking for the same healing or confidence or health, weight loss, whatever, the list goes on. I guarantee that you can find somebody at our events that has gone through what you're going through, or what you've been through, or that's the amazing part of it. We have so many different types of people that come to these events, and they're all there to support each other. And that's a really beautiful environment to be in.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, people sometimes for the first time ever are stepping on the mat.
Absolutely.
And that's great too, that these events are not just, oh, well, you've got to have, experience outside. No, come in, we will teach you. It's just such a warm and welcoming environment. And
I'm glad.
Oh yeah, and I've got to commend y'all for picking good ambassadors and good people that are a part of your organization. I don't know how you do it, but y'all seem to vet them very well, because I've yet to encounter someone at an event that was not warm and welcoming and knowledgeable, of course, too. So
Well,
But
good. I'm glad to hear that. No,
yes.
we have a phenomenal, we have 4 ambassadors throughout the U.S.
Mhm.
and I mean they're run by volunteers. Our volunteer coordinators Melinda and our volunteer or our ambassador managers Robin, and they both are doing a phenomenal job, running these teams.
Mhm.
So I'm glad to hear that.
Oh yeah. And I know the day of experience is fantastic, but I know it takes so much hard work behind the scenes, from putting everything marketing to coordinating. It's just whatever the secret sauce is that y'all are using, it is working. So I definitely commend y'all on that.
12 years of fine tuning the engine.
Well, yeah. So, and that's something that we kept talking about, cross training. I know some, and getting exposed to other people. I, from what you've been saying, I don't think you've encountered this, but what would you say to maybe gyms that don't want people to be cross training? Because I know some gyms kind of have that culture of no, you
Mhm.
can't cross train. So, have you encountered that, or what would you say to someone if they had that particular mentality?
So when I came into jujitsu, there was 2 academies in all of Austin, Texas, which you think about Austin, Texas now with Flow Grappling and
Hmm.
Jordan Ryan and, Team B and all these phenomenal teams that are, Sanji's out there. Everybody's out there now, but there were 2
Hmm.
teams. And back in the days, it was a very old school mentality that I was brought up on, is that it's us against the world. So I was not allowed to cross train,
Mm.
really. I was not encouraged to interact. And so I would say that sometimes, not always, sometimes when you're in a situation where somebody's telling you what you can and cannot do, it may not be the healthiest of environments.
Mhm.
Um, because we ultimately are paying customers, you
Mm.
know.
Mhm.
Um, and so that's one thing I would caution if somebody's telling you you cannot go do something. Um, Second, if it's a matter of comfort, I know, we get comfortable in wanting to go to our academies and they're safe and we know everybody. And it's again, I still, even as a black belt, get nervous going into academies that I'm not from,
Mhm.
so I get it. But just rip off the band-aid and go do it. It's a lot of fun,
Mhm.
and you'll learn a lot of really cool stuff. And it's a big world of jujitsu out there, and you are only getting a very small perspective if you're limiting yourself to only one style, one
Mhm.
lineage, one instructor. And
Mhm.
that's my personal opinion on it.
Mhm. And I think I'd certainly agree with you on that because I guess as a teacher, I know I'm not going to be able to fit every single little need that my student has. That's why I'm not their science teacher and their math teacher. That would be total chaos if I was. But I think, like you said, it's just a healthy thing. You're wanting to learn and grow, and maybe that's just back then. There was just so few gyms available for people.
Exactly.
That
Well,
might
and
be.
then that comes over from, there being one Brazilian academy in Brazil.
Mm,
It's the same. I mean,
mhm.
it, it was, I came into jujitsu in kind of the pioneer days of, I came in like 2000s, had been around for like what, maybe 20 years at that point, if that,
Mhm.
in the
Yeah.
States. So it was still kind of the Wild West. We were all kind of trying to claim our spots,
Mhm.
And so I mean, I don't fault where I came from, but I necessarily would not feel that a gym of that nature would suit where I'm at now in my jujitsu life journey.
Right. Yeah. I think
But that's me personally.
no, no, no. I think that makes complete and total sense. It was there for a time and for a reason, but the pioneer days, the frontier days are they're kind of past. You can't exactly go out into downtown Los Angeles and take stake claim to a piece of land. No, that's the city's land now. So we got to move on.
Well, and there's so much jujitsu, and the way you get better is by knowing how to do if you know how to do everything, how everybody's doing it, then you know how to counter when it's thrown on you. You know how to execute it when they're not jujitsu is an evolution, it really is. And so by limiting yourself, you could potentially not evolve, in ways that you could if you do explore and open and broaden your horizons. But
for sure.
Again, that is just my
No, I think I know because I've had
Hey, it's intern John. Get more from your store with Safeway's Fresh Pass program and enjoy more services like unlimited free delivery and all your grocery needs. More exclusive perks like 5% off every day your favorite organic or open nature items across the stores, and more rewards that never expire. And now enjoy a limited time offer and save up to $5 per pickup order with a Fresh Pass subscription. Get Safeway's Fresh Pass to enjoy exclusive perks, unlimited free delivery, and more. Start your 30-day free trial today. Visit Safeway.com/Fresh Pass for program details.
Febreze is a proud partner of Can't Cancel Pride. However you choose to express yourself, Febreze has the perfect scent to make your home even more fabulous in your own unique way. Have an amazing Pride from Febreze.
benefit of and pleasure of being a part of two different gym families, one pre-marriage and then now one post-marriage, and just looking at the different ways the instructors teach. It's like, oh, there's more than one way to approach this. And so whereas I'm not a big smasher and passer, but I've been exposed to it, so I know kind of how to deal with that. And then I've been exposed to open guard stuff, and they're kind of totally two sides of the same coin, but if you don't know open guard stuff, you're kind of limiting, your jujitsu. If you don't know the smash and kind of grindy jujitsu, you're kind of limiting your jujitsu. You kind of need to be exposed to both.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's kind of funny because my husband is the smasher and passer, and I'm more the open guard. So we're the yin and the yang, so to speak, on that. So what would you say? I know that you mentioned I want to go back because this is just something that I'm thinking of because I've gone through a lot of injuries. What is that process mentally like for you, overcoming an injury and not letting that destroy or crush your spirit so much that you walk away from jujitsu? What's that process?
So at the height, I lost and I lost and I lost and I lost way longer than I won in jujitsu. And so 09 was yeah, that's my year. It was finally like, yay, I finally won the pans. And I came in second at the Worlds, and it was like, wow, it's finally clicking, And then I tore my meniscus with a bucket tear, and I didn't have insurance. This is pre-Obama, getting rid of the pre-existing condition issue. And so I had to wait, and find a way to get it fixed. And so I kept training on it, which I would not recommend, because by the time I went in and did surgery, my eighth had been pulled off the bone, and my pretty much did bucket tear surgery on my own. I tore it so many times. And that whole experience was absolutely devastating, because my whole identity revolved around being a competitor. My value and worth was tied into that as well, which is not healthy looking back. It was in my little world, was like, oh wow, what do I do now? Like, this is all what I've done. I've spent past 7-8 years only doing this, and now I can't. And so it was, I would not say it was easy. I definitely fought it for a long time, but it opened new doors for me. And, I'm going to mess up the saying, but it's like oftentimes people don't see that new door opening because they're so focused on the one that's closing.
Right.
And I feel very fortunate that Girls and Geese was kind of like that door that opened, and I didn't want it. Like, I really didn't. I wanted to still be competitor Shama, I didn't want to take on this. I didn't even know what it meant back then, but I just knew that I felt good doing it and I enjoyed it, and it was a way for me to stay involved even though I was injured and I couldn't train for like almost a year and a half. After the surgery and everything. And so I think the thing is, like, sometimes it's when you're just holding on to something in jujitsu, and you just let so many other things slip past. And I think it's that same kind of mentality of like, you have to be able to evolve. You have to be able to let go. You have to know when to move. You can't just hold on to something. Hope it's gonna work out because it's already done, so that was really hard. I don't recommend it for anybody, but it was again, I look at all the hard things I've gone through in my life as some of the best things that I've experienced as well. It opened up the opportunity for me to take on the role that I have now today.
It's one of those things sometimes when you get knocked down, I'm going to butcher the expression too. It's not, it's not in never falling. It's in how many times you get up, something to that effect.
Yeah, and I've gotten up quite a few times. I just keep, like I said, I'm stubborn. I just keep showing up.
Hey, I mean, that's half the battle right there. Don't quit on us, and then. But I think that's just really good insight. You were mentioning that your whole identity was kind of wrapped up in that one avenue. And how you said, looking back, that you don't think that was necessarily healthy. And I think that's really good, cause for myself and, anyone who may be listening, is just to think about, where do you find your worth and your value?
Absolutely.
Because if it's just in something that you can physically do, I hate to say it, and I'm reminding myself this, one day you physically cannot do those things. Age is, time is reigned supreme. And in jujitsu, I love seeing the jujitsu grandma, somebody older still competing, still doing stuff, or, somebody's getting started later in life in jujitsu, but it's the gentle art, but eventually our bodies give way. And, what are you going to see value in jujitsu? Is it the community? Is it going to be the techniques? Is it going to be, or is it just going to be the wins?
Oh, it's easy. It's very easy to be enticed by that. It's you get the attention of winning. You got your teammates. Now we got social media, way more in effect than it was when it was coming up, and it was good, especially if you were an athletic person like myself and think you cannot ever do anything physical, and then you start doing it. Yeah, it feels pretty awesome, but it's easy to get drunk on that. It's very easy to slip down that slope. And, I was young. I was in my 20s, when that was happening. And it's a different world than when you start getting into your 40s. Now you're like, oh, okay, that was not maybe the best thing to do.
Well, it's always good to have that, introspection and looking back and seeing, okay, that may not have been the best, but maybe I can help somebody not make the same mistake, or just have them take a pause and think, is that really what you want? That's
Well,
always,
yeah.
yeah.
And it gives you once you recognize something like that, it gives you an opportunity to define what your value is based on, like, and your beliefs and all of that, your principles, etc.
And I don't know, it just seems like jujitsu gives you so many opportunities to find value in, things that are so much bigger than, a win or something like that, that I keep coming back to the community because I'm like yourself. I'm an introvert, but also an extrovert, uh, that's my social outing for the day is going to jujitsu. But yeah, I mean, that's why I keep coming back, and that's, I've made some of the best friends I've ever made, it's because of jujitsu. I would not have met them if it wasn't for jujitsu. And so I guess getting back to that, how would you, talk to, or if you were to give your sales pitch, I guess, to a woman who's not been exposed to these female, specific camps like girls and geese, how might you pitch this to her? Maybe let's just pretend she's out in the middle of nowhere, is not exposed to social media, if that person exists. How would you try to sell her on coming to a girls and geese camp?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different angles you could take, right? I think it's so many of us come from so many different backgrounds. Some women, have been bullied by other women, so it's intimidating to walk into a room with a bunch of women. Some women get along with men more, and I think that's a lot of jujitsu women, is
Yeah.
we've been one of the guys, and so I think the best thing that I could tell somebody is you don't know what it's like to roll with somebody your size and skill level until you do. And going to a girls and geese event, I'm willing that you will find somebody a lot closer to your size and skill level than most of the guys in your gym, depending on what size woman you are,
Right, yeah.
But the chances of you being medium to smaller woman and having somebody of that, and just like women move differently, even if you are moving with guys that are the same size, we move differently. So the benefits, you'll have an opportunity to train with women your size and your skill level. You'll have an opportunity to make amazing friendships, you'll learn about a community that's out there that you may not have already been aware of. And it's a support group, it's really a lot of it. It's you meet and connect. I mean, I had somebody tell me today that she met her business partner because she got paired up with her at a girls and geese event in Idaho.
Oh, that's awesome.
Cool. So it's networking, it's community, and that's something that I've always had a trait and a desire to do, is bring people together. Even as a kid, I was always like, everybody gets to do this, and so I've always been somebody that wants to bring people together. And there's a feeling, and then that's why a lot of our ambassadors and our participants and our instructors and our academies love being a part of what we do, because there's an amazing feeling that comes from people coming together in these environments. And I can't pinpoint just one part of what it is, but I can guarantee that most of the people, unless you've had a bad experience for some reason, which if you had, let us know. We want to correct it. But it's a feeling that you just feel good. You just feel happy. You just feel like, I don't know. And it goes into your week. You go to a girls and geese event on Sunday or Saturday, and you just feel happy. You're just good. You're like, wow, it's kind of like a high. Yeah. Wow, that's really good. And that's like a large part of why, I enjoy doing. I go to these events and I was like, this is why I do what I do. It's because of all of us coming together and the magic of that.
Oh yeah.
And you can't find that in any other kind of experience other than like probably other women's jiu-jitsu events. Women in jiu-jitsu are different. We really are.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's, again, I'm biased towards that, this community, of course, but it's just, it hits different than a female book club. It really does. And I, but it's something about women, I should say, women struggling in a common pursuit together, because there's something about being united under that just struggle and, just suffering through something that may be tough, but we all are going through it together. We all have those stories on the mats, and then, we learn techniques, and I don't know, it's just like the motto, the strength and solidarity. There's that sense of camaraderie that it's really hard to duplicate it. It really is.
It has to be authentic,
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're ultimate. When I talk about like what we're selling an authentic experience. Is really what it is. It's an experience is what we're providing the community with. And it can be whatever you make of it when you go,
Oh yeah, no, you can have, I mean, most of my, this is just a testament to how at ease I was at these events. I talked while rolling, it's like, oh, well, have you thought about this? Have you done this? I do this technique all the time. And, so it's just, we're not trying to kill each other, but at the same time, it's like, okay, that's tap, 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 But I just got a hoot out of learning from the girls, I was rolling with, but then of course from the instructors. But I was learning left and right with everybody involved, and it wasn't anything forced. It was authentic, as you're saying, and so that's just something. Again, those 12 years of refining over and over again. So, what was it like I know the pandemic shut everything down. Did that also, I'm assuming y'all's programs stopped during the craziness. Did you see a lot of people wanting and wondering when you would be able to offer those services back?
Febreze is a proud partner of Can't Cancel Pride. However you choose to express yourself, Febreze has the perfect scent to make your home even more fabulous in your own unique way. Have an amazing Pride from Febreze.
Yeah, that was an interesting experience because we went from 7 events a month to undoing 7 events a month of work. Yeah, I've never had to undo my work before, quite like that. And so it was difficult because we are coast to coast and in Hawaii, and what's spinning in California is not something that's happening in Texas, so it's happening in New Jersey, not the same. So it really changed our approach towards things. But on the flip side, even though we weren't able to do events, we were shut down from doing events for about a year. We held off for about a year, and then started doing it in areas that were, a little bit less risky to do it in. And we had to be very strategic about where we did them. But it allowed us during that period where we were not doing anything to start doing virtual stuff. And so that's when we started doing our Real Talk series, which is a panel discussion where we have people on, we just talk about various different topics. We did one today on being jujitsu and being over 40, we've done it on issues related to competition, on developing a women's program. We've had phenomenal guests on there. And we also started doing interviews, like doing live Q&As. We did one with Fionn Davies the other day, and where people get to interactively ask these people questions, like it's a forum where they just post up their questions and they get them answered. We started featuring young up and coming. We wanted to get the young girls involved. So we started highlighting and doing interviews with young athletes, as young as I think we had somebody who's 6 maybe on. Cool. And they just talk a little bit about their journey. And it's really interesting getting these kids' perspectives, because they are the future of jiu-jitsu. And so it allowed us to broaden our reach on YouTube and on our podcast and look at other resources that we can offer. And so we're still continuing to do that in addition to our live events.
That's awesome, because that like you said, that totally extends the reach. They may not be able to make an event in Idaho that month, but they can surely listen and be involved on a live Q&A. I think that's an amazing pivot. I know, Lord have mercy, that this pandemic just shot everybody in the face. I know I learned how to do Zoom and digital platforms overnight as a teacher. And so I know everything was so challenged, but I think, organizations like yours that have been able to capitalize and transition into an online community, and now an online community in addition to that in-person event and experience. I mean, who knows how far this could go now? It could go, maybe I'd like to think maybe this goes international. We could stretch out and do events all over the world, but
Yeah, that was our goal in 2020. We were gonna hit Europe, but didn't quite happen that way. But it's back on the option board for next year. So I'm hoping we can make that happen, because Europe is blowing up. Jiu-jitsu in Europe is blowing up big time, and I would love for us to be a part of that and bring some recognition to the women in Europe, because I know there's a lot. It's the hardest part. There's phenomenal. One thing I've learned in traveling is there are phenomenal athletes and instructors all over the place and in the most unsuspecting places, and we don't hear about them because it takes a lot of money to get to the States to build any kind of name recognition, outside of their direct communities.
Right.
And so that's what we're here for, really. A large part of what we are is we're not only here to highlight, the women that are really shaking it up and making a name for themselves, but also to bring recognition to the women that are pioneers in their areas and that are amazing instructors and competitors locally also.
Oh yeah. And I think, with the rise of these, like some of these flow grappling, series and competitions, hopefully, and with them having more women on, and then all these other events that are being broadcasted online, hopefully, these women that we may not know today, maybe in another couple of months we're going to know their names and be like, oh, well, let me look up all this information on this girl and follow her. So that's what, hopefully that'll end up happening sooner rather than later for the ladies out there competing. So, or wanting to get involved. So speaking of getting involved, how can people get involved in the Girls and Geese? Like how can we donate? How can we support this organization?
Best way I would say is go to girlsandgeese.com. There's a big icon on the top that says donate. If you want to get involved, I mean, we are a huge entity. I joke and I say we created a monster, but we really have. And
a monster for good.
A monster for good, but wow, is it a huge undertaking? And I don't think I realized it until coming back to it. But we have people that help out at all different capacities. We have writers for our blog. We have people that help out, with nonprofit, seeing grants and such. We have people who enjoy organizing. I mean, it's a broad variety. So if you have any skill that you feel that could somehow benefit, even if you don't feel it can benefit us and you want to get involved, go to our website. If you look, there's a section that says join the movement, become a volunteer, sign up there. We'll get you set up in our system, send you all the information on what it entails, and how to get involved, and we can place you in the areas that we need help.
That's great. That's great that people can get involved in any way. It seems that they could be creative, they could be great organizers. So it's not just a one size fits all. It's wherever they have a skill, that skill can be used. I love that. And one thing I know that you mentioned, and I've heard a little bit about that, but you talked about sponsorship program. I kind of know a little bit about that, but let's assume that our listeners don't know what that is. Would you mind explaining what that is?
Sure. So this is one of my pet project. This is honestly a large part of why I got involved with Girls and Geese is I wanted, when I was competing all the time, there were not a lot of resources as far as sponsorships went. It was like, oh, here's a gi, here's a rash guard. That's awesome, but I need money for registration and tickets and all of that. And so I kept looking, and I was like, is there anything out there, like a grant or something I can apply to help, supplement my income so I can be able to do this, and travel. And so, no, there's not. So we're going to make it. And so we created the Girls and Geese Scholarship Program. And the scholarship program is designed to where, say, if somebody who wants to start jujitsu and can't afford the tuition, we'll help cover the tuition, get her started. We also have geese. You go to a gym and you sign up, you can spend easily like $300 nowadays, signing up. So that's not a lot. That's a lot of money for people to drop, just to start something that they don't even really understand if they want to do, so we have gi uniforms. We also have for people who want to compete that can't afford to do it. We'll help with paying for competition entry fees. Sometimes if you have a little bit left over, we cover gas or like air or hotel or something. All of this you can apply for on our website as well. If you go to our scholarships section, you can apply there, review them every month, and try to out as we can, depending on what the proceeds are for that month.
That's a wonderful. That is just amazing, because like you said, I don't think there's really any program out there. Y'all's is the only one that I'm aware of to really help out women who are wanting to do this, who just can't financially, because it's expensive when you start adding up all those travel costs and trying to get somewhere. And there may be a girl or a woman wanting to start out, and like you said, $300 easy.
Easy, yeah.
And then if she wants to have, well, heaven forbid she has another daughter or has children that want to start, that's really expensive. But I think that's just amazing that you're giving people that opportunity to see, do I want to do this? Can I try this out? Is this going to be for me? Is this going to be something that my daughter wants to do? And it's just a great avenue to give people access to something that they may not have access to beforehand.
Absolutely. And it's for people who have been competing. He loses a job, but he gets sick in the family. Something happens and you can't afford it. You can apply there too. We want to keep you on the mats as much as we want to get new people on the mats. We want to keep the ones on the mats as well.
Oh yeah.
I guess the objective there was like, let's get rid of all the barriers to keep women off the mats, and that money was number one. That was the number one thing that we kept getting feedback on is, why do you not train? I can't afford to.
No, and especially nowadays with the pandemic and, people just really wondering what's the market going to do, people getting laid off, and you just never know. Life can hit you really hard sometimes. And so, yeah, that's just a wonderful that's just something I sing the praises about y'all's just sponsorship on that. But so, we know about the Facebook page, the YouTube, your website. Any other place that people need to go to get involved or to see what you're all about?
Yeah, we're on Instagram as well.
That's right.
We have a Facebook page. We also have a Facebook group. The Facebook group is a great way for you to connect. So you can go in there and say, hi, I'm so-and-so from wherever you're from, and I'm looking to connect with ladies, and is there anything going on or whatnot? It's definitely recommend joining the group. It's a great way to meet other women all over the place and locally. And yeah, I think you named them all, the rest of them.
Yeah. Anything before, I want to be respectful of your time, but anything else you'd like to let the listeners know or redirect them to, or?
Oh, our podcast. I forgot our YouTube and our podcast is
Yes.
so you can find our podcast pretty much any fine podcast on Apple and all that. No, I mean I think that this is not an easy journey that we've all gone on, and I think we as women need to give ourselves credit for just being on this journey, whether or not you stick to it or not. At least you went down this path, because there's a lot you can learn from jujitsu.
Oh, for sure. It's, you can learn resiliency, grit, use your stubbornness for good, and just see where, you thought a limit was, and just see that you can push past it, and then
Absolutely.
make good friends in the process, hopefully. So
Absolutely. No, for sure.
for
No,
sure.
thank you for having me on. I appreciate
Yes.
it.
Well, thank you for taking the time out of your day, and hope you have a great rest of your afternoon where you're at. So, all right. Well, again, thank you so much for being on.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a good one.
We made USAA insurance to help you save. Take advantage of discounts when you cover your home and your ride. Discover how we're helping members save at USAA.com/bundle. USAA. Restrictions apply. We made USAA insurance for veterans like James. When he found out how much USAA was helping members save, he said,
"It's time to switch."
We'll help you find the right coverage at the right price. USAA. What you're made of, we're made for. Restrictions apply.